Welcome to Member 365 webinar on the List Builder, Optimizing Engagement. Today, I am your host. My name is Christine Bundy, and fun fact is I love questions. So if you have questions at any time, please do not hesitate to ask. No question is a silly question. We are recording today. Everybody has been muted, cameras are turned off, and the recording will be posted on our YouTube channel for future reference. In today's agenda, what we are going to do is we're first going to have a little bit of talk about the difference between a sign-up form and what lists are and what the difference is and the purpose behind them. And then we're going to create a sign-up form, and we're going to create a few lists kind of just based off of what we typically hear people wanting. And then we'll go through a couple of best practices and any questions that you may have. So sign-up forms versus lists. The main difference between the two is a sign-up form is a subscription list. You can embed the option to sign up for it in your website. It's also available in the member portal for members or non-members to select. And it also appears when members go to opt out of communication. So it provides them with different options or preferences that they can select. I always encourage to at least have 3 sign-up forms just for when people go to unsubscribe. The only option that is available there is not just to completely opt out. So it's a little bit of a strategic as to why you would have it, and putting it there for just for the preference purposes. Now, lists, on the other hand, are kind of like a reporting process. So for administrators to manually create lists based off of filters that are on a contact record. So contact records are track everything that a member does, whether it's an event, membership, subscription, sign-up form, tags, anything that occurs within a member then can get filtered in a list, so you can create a report or a list of people that you want to segment and communicate to. So you can really segment members with lists and only send them specific communications that you want to. So let's dive into Member 365 and show you what those look like. So first, let's go and do the sign up form. So from the admin dashboard, we're going to go up to email campaigns, and there's sign up forms here. And what you're going to do is, I already have a few in here. So this is the strategy behind this is what are the different avenues in which you communicate? You have events. If you have events, you should have a sign up form for events. If you have a newsletter, you should have one for your newsletter. If you have a specific membership option, you might want to put that in. You might only have 2, you might have 3. You might want to do just job postings as that. For just every time there's a job posting, you can post it out to anybody who wants to be aware of it, or any other resources that you may have. Some people have magazines that they have in their repository in their member portal. Those might be things that you want to have as this specific subscription list for them. These are really easy to make. You simply will create a sign up form at the top. You're going to give it a name. You're going to determine which fields you want them to fill out. It is mandatory to have the email. I always like to make sure that I ask for the first name and last name, and I make them mandatory because that is really important information for me, so I know who I'm addressing. And when I'm sending out communications, I can use the merge tags to send it to into a first person name instead of just a hey there. And then down here, it's going to ask if you have consent or have contacts that have already subscribed. So if you're moving from one system to another system, and let's say you're coming from like MailChimp, you already have the subscriptions, you can say yes, and then you can simply just copy the email addresses in here, and they will be on this form. And then you can determine what type of consent that you have in order to email them. So that is something that you can do. Once you say to create the form, it's going to bring you with the pop-up. So this is the script in which you would then use to embed in your website. Now you don't have to, but it is available for you. So this would you would provide to your webmaster. If you need help, you could always ask us and we can help you with that as well. You just need to have access to your website. If I want to make updates, so if I go back and I want to maybe delete one of these, you can come over here and you can permanently delete it. You can see who has signed up for. You can import more contacts into the sign up form. You can also embed it into your website. So if you need the embed code, it's also available here, or you can send out an email. So those are the sign up forms. Now, lists. How do we create a list? You come up to a list and you hit create a list to be able to do that, but I'm actually going to go in and show manage forms. And I'm going to point out two things that are actually wrong with my list right now. One, they're not clean. So one thing I always recommend you do is make sure you clean your lists. Like even if you're once a month going in there and just cleaning the list to make sure that there's not duplicates. Even yesterday, I was on a phone call with a client and they had duplicates. So no one knew which one is it this active members or this active members that you're supposed to select for the active members newsletter. It gets confusing. And so you want to make sure that the second thing that you do is you're very concise and you clearly label what these lists are and what they're for. Because you might have someone doing a project and they need an active list with different filters on it. So again, label it to be like, hey, this is mine, don't touch. Or something along those lines. But again, this is really messy. This is our play site and this is messy. So I do not recommend, if yours looks like this, I recommend you going in and you're doing a clean out. And it's really easy. So you can come in here and you can just simply delete them if they're not accurate. Or you can go in and have a look at them. You can also send lists, email to these groups. If this group of individuals, you want to add a tag to those, that specific tag to those individuals, you can click on this and have a previously created share tag or add a my tag. So it's going to tag them automatically. Or you can go in and simply add edit the list or download the list that's already existing in here. But we're going to actually go in and we're going to create a couple of lists. And I'm going to, sorry, not custom list. Custom list. So sorry, there's two other things. Custom list versus import list. Importing a list into the system is kind of a one-time import. So once you import them in, they're on the list unless you remove them. So they are not, there's no filtering within our system. It's just a list that you've taken from third party and then inputted into our system. I always recommend, instead of doing that, maybe using the master import and doing a tag, because then you can update that tag and remove people kind of as needed. So this is just going to be Christine's. And I'm going to share it. You can make them so that they are your own, so no one else sees it. It's only your list. Again, if you're trying to keep it clean, you're doing like a special product that you don't want people to see the list, then you can make it a my list. Down here, it's going to tell you exactly how many contacts are in your database. So right now there's no filters. In this green box is the filter that are available. And each of the items on here are filters that are accessed on a member's contact record. And so you can filter based off of committees, contact demographic forms, contact information, directory forms, events, fundraisers, how'd you hear about us from the donations, keywords, member engagement, memberships. This is an important one. Organizations, what roles they may hold for an organization with membership, tags, and then workspaces. So the first one that I'm going to show you is members. So a lot of people ask, how do we make an active member list? That's a really common one to get asked. So I'm going to go to memberships. And I'm going to go to my primaries. And I'm just going to select all. However, you can select just the specific ones that you want. Then I'm going to go to status and I'm going to go to active. And this right here, these two blue blocks in the big green one is an and statement. It means that they have to fit both criterias in order to be in this list. But let's say you want to include employees. that's when you would go down here and go to the add criteria. And you're gonna add another green box. So this is gonna be an and statement because you're either gonna fit in the first green box. And that's an and statement, or this is gonna be an or statement, or it's gonna be in the second, they fit the criteria in the second green box. So it's either they fit one or the other, and then they get added to the list. So for this, then I'm gonna go, okay, I want employees for all. And I want them to have only if they have an active status. So it's an or statement. So our number didn't go up because nobody else fits the second set of criteria that we have, and that's okay. As we scroll down, you want to save. And once we're down here, a couple things that I want to point out is you can search by people's names. So if you want to see somebody specific or look to see if someone specifically is in the list, you can. You can also filter by larger numbers if you have multiples, and you can export the list. So you can click this and then select criteria that you want to be in a report externally, and then be able to use that for your own purposes that you may need for providing information for a report or for a committee. If you scroll down, if you see somebody with a red line through their name, this means that that person does not have email consent and you cannot send them communications. So you have to go through, it asks, if there's someone that says, I want to be removed from the list, and maybe this was the list you imported, you can come over here and you can click on the X. And as you can see, it's in gray. If it's in gray, it means that you've manually done it. If it has a red line, it means they do not have consent and they will not be sent communications. So even though they're in the list count, they will not be sent any communications. So there you go. That's the first one I get asked a lot. Now, another one I get asked is, how do I do a report for events? Can I have a list? Yes, you can. So if you go up to your events, and there's lots of different criteria that you may want to use. I always like to make sure that it's registered and attended for post. Or it could just be simply anyone that has registered for the event. And then you select the event that you want to promote to or send communications to. And you hit save. And then that number will reduce down to only the individuals that are registered for that event. So if you're doing marketing for an event before the event occurs, this is what you want to do. If you want to say like a thank you email or follow up with a survey, for example, you might want to use the criteria registered and attended for the event. And then that way your number is going to be reduced and reduced to only the people that have attended. So that is for events. Another one that I get asked a lot about is tags. So there are different two types of tags. There are organization tags and contact tags. So contact tags are for the individual, whereas organizations, it's anybody that is related to the organization. So there are no organization tags in this system, but there are lots of contact tags. So I can pull based off of speakers for past events, and then send out communications to those individuals that have that specific tag. One thing I also will always mention is make sure that you save as you go. So that in case you get distracted and you leave, you don't want anything that you have done not to be saved. One other thing I do like to point out is whenever you have memberships, and some people like to send communications to people with specific roles, you can do that. So you can just say anybody that has a primary role or a billing contact or anything along those lines. So if you're doing updates with the system and you only want the primary to get notified, then you can do it based off of a specific role if you like. All right. So that is the basics and the three most asked questions I get with list building. You can have the same thing apply for lapsed or archive members. And you can also do based off of form questions. So any questions that you have in a membership form, or even a directory form, you can filter based off of that if you need to. So if you have people that want, if you put your questions of whether they want to be on a specific committee or anything like that, you can create a list just based off of that answer. All right, so let's go back and go through some best practices. So I did mention, and I did show you how messy the example was, and that's again, don't have it messy. Make sure that you are clearly labeling your lists, you know, exactly what they are, what they're for. I always think it's really great to have kind of a ledger, an internal ledger document to saying what list you use for what communications, so that people are, if gosh forbid you win the lottery and you leave tomorrow, somebody else can take over and understand what they're doing. And then also make sure you take the time and you clean those lists. Again, you might take off for vacation, somebody forgot they created the same list twice, and then you don't know which one you're using. So just make sure that you keep it clean, clean data in is clean data out. That also works with lists, so you're properly communicating to the right segment of individuals. Questions? Ooh, good question. How do I add a single contact to a list? Ooh, I get this one a lot too. So good question. So when you go back in, let's say, for example, the most time I get this is when someone does an import. So they import a group of individuals into a list and they're like, oh, I got to add one or two more people. How do I do that? So that's when you would use tags. So that's when you would go up to your contact settings, and I'm just going to open this in a new tab. And you would create a share tag or whatever that list is for. And then once you create that tag, you then would go to the contact record and add it on the contact record. So if I just pull myself up, for example. We can use anyone here. So we pull up a contact. And we go to shared tags here. You then can find the tag that you created, click on it, hit apply, and then that tag is added. So then when you come back to here, and you want to add that like one individual, you can come in, go to shared tags, find the tag that you used and add it, and it will update that one individual. And then if there's any other individuals, you just simply add that tag to their contact record. Again, this is why I do recommend, like if you are doing an import, it can be great, but you might just simply want to use a tag, because if you want to remove one person, you'd have to come in here and do it this way instead of just removing that tag from the contact record. Either way works. What works best for you is always great. All right, well, I just always like to finish off by saying that we have lots of resources available for you. So right in the Member 365 dashboard, at any time you have access to our help center. It is right here, so you can see or look at instructional videos where this video will also be posted, access to our knowledge base, and be able to submit a ticket. So if you are having any difficulties or have some questions, you can always submit a ticket. If you have premium support, there is the option to book a Zoom call or to have a chat with us via chat. Also, I always like to point out is that we also have release notes, so any updates we post monthly for you, and you can see those there. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.